Haven't had to talk to you, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Got a couple minutes. How you feeling? Where you said? You weren't feeling.
Yeah, I was.
Huh?
I went with both.
You got with Danny yet?
No. We don't know the school. We see what it was.
Huh?
I'm seeing this part.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, the hard one.
That's. David. Time. Everybody signed in?
See the honor, that's okay.
Okay, welcome everyone. Just Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Malloy,
Here.
Mr. Bernard.
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here. Okay, after this meeting, of course, we're gonna have a budget meeting. I think the auditor will be, auditor's department, hopefully Chrissy will be here. I know Martha had an accident.
Tim Hanford's.
Oh, Tim? Okay. Okay, item one, dispense minutes of the meeting workshop dated June 3rd, 2025, and the regular meeting dated June 4th, 2025. 2, to approve the bills. 3, approve additional appropriations as listed. That is from the auditor's office between May 29th through June 4th. 4, to approve transfer of appropriations, May 29th, 25, June 4th, as listed. 5, to adopt a resolution approving the submitted list labeled ORC 570541D, April 2025, purchase orders to various vendors as then and now. They're in compliance with ORC 5705.41D. It's a recommendation of the auditor. 6, or if this has something to do with the prosecutor. No, okay, it just says approved, but reviewed. 6, to accept donation of $607.82 from the auditor, Martha Yoder, to be deposited into the fund listed. And it's intended to the auditor's office for expenses for legal services and disbursements provided by Isaac, Wiles, Burkholder, and Miller from 4/23 to 4/30/25 for the Court of Appeals, Ohio 11th District. Case number listed there, donations in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code. What is this? I'm not even sure what this is.
Tim Hanford, Chief Deputy Auditor. Martha is proceeding forward with the appeal of her court case. She is going to be providing payment for that herself. This is through a standard practice of donation process. We just wanted to make the commissioners aware that this was going on. We've consulted with Attorney Danzo, and everything is pretty much on the up and up, but she does not want to be using more general funds for the appeal. She's going to be doing this herself.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Prosecutor's okay with it.
Yeah, Commissioners, Bill Danza, Prosecutor's Office, generally, anyone can donate to Trumbull County for any reason under 9.20, the revised code. And the only requirement then is that the funds are applied toward the terms of the gift, whatever that was. So it appears to all be laid out in the agenda item.
Any questions, commissioners? You know, this is all about. 7, to approve transfer of $232,801.42 from Trumbull County Probate Court fund number listed, the Trumbull County General Fund. Listed number there, and to request the Trumbull County Budget Commission consider amending its certificate of estimated resources to reflect the newly available funding. Upon proper certification, Trumbull County Budget Commission, Trumbull County Probate Court, and the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners agree Board of Commissioners will approve an additional appropriation to the budget of the probate court in the amount of $218,801.42. $57,801.42 of the appropriation will be allocated to Trumbull County Probate Court, fund number listed. And $161,000 of that appropriation will be allocated to Trumbull County Probate Court, fund number listed there. Remaining $14,000 will be allocated as chosen by the Board of Commissioners. I'm not so sure what this is about.
This gentleman right next to you.
Yes, you too.
It's fine.
Okay, I thought you were 8, but I guess we're 8.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
Can
this is 7. This is 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probate court.
That's okay. I was gonna say there. I got it.
I'm so sorry.
I'm like,
I'm a little lost now.
Yeah.
yeah.
If it helps, Judge Frederick asked me to stop by for any questions. Basically, what happened is we have an accumulation of funds. It's listed. Probate court generates, they have mental illness cases where we are required by statute to hold hearings. The county is responsible by statute to fund those, basically pay for attorneys, pay for independent doctors in these mental illness cases. The funds, the probate court then can actively apply to the state of Ohio for some reimbursement for those funds. Don't always get all of those, but we can accumulate some. In the past, this account was set up and the funds were deposited in this account. What we are attempting to do is return the funds from that account into the general fund account. Do this in consultation with the prosecutor's office, whatever the language for the proposed resolution. And once we return those funds to the general account, we're going to change our policy and procedures as to how we take incoming reimbursement. We're going to apply them directly on cases, and the funds will trickle into the general fund more efficiently at this point. So the funds have been accumulated to the benefit of the county for a period of time, trying to get those into the general.
So basically, it's a surplus.
Somewhat, yes.
That's what I'm saying. 14,000.
Now, that 14,000 is a fixed amount. There may be additional funds that we are reimbursed for, that there's excess by the end of the year. So there may be additional funds in the general fund from this by changing our policy and procedures.
So basically, we're gonna take money out of one account, put it in our account, redistribute it back to you, but keep 14,000 of it in the general.
The 57,000 is specifically for those mental health cases. It's possible we won't utilize all that 57,000. That part will remain in the general fund.
Appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll move on to 8. Rich Owen is here. Rich, you'd like to?
Yes, this is just an extending an agreement we already had in place with Ashtabula County the last 5 years, where at any one time we'll take up to 3 of their residents in our detention center. They pay us a $200 per diem per day per kid. And we provide the housing and all that kind of stuff in our facility, because they have closed their center up there. So we just take any one time 3 kids.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Sure.
We're gonna move to the Trumbull County Engineer, Gary Schaefer's here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Gary Schaefer from County Engineer's Office. Number 9 is to concur with our office to close Stoddard Hayes. It's a township road, but formality, we're going to put some all of them up there this week, so. Some closure. That is to concur with our office and grant the 2 right-of-way permits listed. Now, the next 7, 6 of them are almost identical, so I'll go through those first and then come back to 12. So number 11 is to approve an ODOT prepared professional service agreement with MS Consultants for the load rating of 21 bridges in the amount of $49,900. The feds about it, last year sometime, goes back about a year and a half, mandated the load rating of all of our structures for new vehicles. New vehicle type is very rare, but all of our bridges, federal bridges, need to be analyzed by the end of the year. For this new vehicle type. So, with any federal mandate, typically there's no funding available. But the state makes some funds available. So federal funding goes through the state. It's 80-20 money. So I've got 6 agreements on here. There's a lot more funding later this year, but this is to the funding is available at this point. So the first one's with MS Consultants. Number 13. To approve an ODOT prepared professional service agreement with Ferguson Lake, rating of 22 bridges. All these are 80-20. 14. To approve the ODOT prepared professional service agreement with Arcadis. 15 bridges in the amount of $41,900. 15 is to approve the ODOT prepared special service agreement with DLC. Rating of 15 bridges and $36,572. 16 is to put down Dennis, load rating of 3 bridges on amount 5,880. 17, the last one of those, that's the proof we got carrying with Palmer engineering, load rating of 18 bridges on 49,347. And jump back real quick there. We'll explain 12 is to approve the ODOT transportation prepared professional service agreement with Ferguson Nickel. That one is for a signal upgrade, CMAC money, which is congestion mitigation air quality funding. That comes through the state. It's also federal money. That's 100% funded through CMAC, and that's going to analyze and do warrant analysis for our signalized intersections, Larchmont, North River Road corridor, and also out on Warren Sharon. We have 13 signalized intersections. We analyze that funding. And the next year, I'll probably be coming back to the construction contract. Depending on the outcome of that step.
Gary, I know some got like 21 bridges, 22, 15, one got 3. Did you just spread it out over all the companies?
I did, yeah, there's 6 of them, and the state came back and said, yeah, I was at most with 6 contracts. A lot of them just pick 1, 2, 3. I think 4 was the next most. Number 1, just you don't want to overload a consultant. He's not going to get them done on time, so that was taken into consideration. Plus, a lot of those were awarded to consultants that had previously load rated. Some they were able to negotiate a better fee and more familiar with the bridge. You might also have the data from the last time they load rated it. That's a good question. They were all pre-qualified to the state. The state did the advertising, selected the consultants that were eligible for the use of. So I went back in my list from 2011. Load rated those. Try to keep the same consultant.
Here I have an item. I talked with the director from District 4 yesterday on the exit, Route 5 there, the bypass. He said he was gonna reach out to you. Did he call you yet about cleaning up that exit?
Which part of that exit?
Well, there where you get off there, it's West Market Street, but it's the Homeview exit.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
And I spoke with him yesterday, and he said that he was gonna get with you to see if you knew anything about it. Whether a contractor caused that or how that.
I assumed it was one of their contracts. I mean, you guys were on.
I talked to him about it last week. I talked to a gentleman about it last week. He said they were told that's where they when they clean the ditches out, they store the stuff there until someone else comes and picks it up. Instead of hauling it to a different place to get rid of loads of dirt at a time, that they use that facility commonly to store materials and then take materials out of there. It's like the main shipping point they have instead of putting it in a ODOT yard somewhere. There was a further distance for them gas mileage wise.
Well,
So he said they've been doing it there for about 10 years and that's like their designated
Lay down.
spot.
Well,
Yeah.
what he told me, he was gonna reach out to Gary. Get a conversation going with Gary, then he was gonna get back to me to see, and get that cleaned up. I mean, it's, I don't know if you drove by it, I drove by it.
I did too. I drove and looked at it.
And I agree, it needs cleaned up. I mean, that's not.
Once he reaches out to me, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Conversation.
And they have a garage right down
I
there.
was just gonna say, yeah, they've got that solid element. It's not a lot of space over there, but
It's enough for what you're doing. I mean,
yeah, it's an eyesore there at that.
absolutely.
Yeah, when I was there were 2 trucks sitting there too. When I went by the other day, it must have been workers' trucks. They park in there also and then pick them up to go do work on the roadways.
Well, we'll get to the bottom of it anyway, but he did say he was gonna reach out to
Okay,
you.
we're good to work with, and they do care about.
Yeah, he thought maybe that you knew how everything got here, because off the top, he had no idea how everything got
Sounds like,
here.
yeah, he's on.
And I told him, I said, I think that it was one of your state contractors, it wouldn't be anybody, the county engineer. He indicated he was gonna reach out to you.
It's actually ODOT workers that are dumping the stuff there.
Yeah.
It's actually
It
ODOT.
started with one of their projects, because they had it loaded up there for
Years
years,
ago.
ever since, I mean, we're going back 5 years, like, they're continually dumping stuff there.
What I saw looked like it was a lot of dirt there, that they could just haul out of there and then, it cleaned it up.
Right.
Anyway, we're on
Commissioners, might as well bring it up while we're, we received an email from Mr. Hodges about a light on North River Road by the Aptiva plant. Have you know anything about it? I guess nobody's contacted him. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that was being handled to the highway department, but yeah, I did get involved, early on with that. We had it adjusted. Since it's part of this study and it's gonna be addressed, that signal may stay, you know, we may put in video or radar detection. We don't know where the study's going, it's even gonna be one, I guess, it's the best way to put it. So at this time, we're just dialing back the timing as much as we can to give that north, you know, the east-west action a lot more time and give it out the west. So that's been an ongoing concern forever.
Yeah,
But yeah, highway, I believe, would have his contact through a work request.
okay.
You said Hodges is the name?
Yeah, he just says nobody's contacted him and now he's putting it into the calendars. You know, you're as an elected official, it's your duty to get the Trumbull County engineer, you know how that goes, but maybe if you could contact ODOT or whoever.
It's our signal, yeah, and the vehicle detection is broken on it. So instead of spending the funds to get that repaired.
Can I just send
Signals under-
you or somebody his contact
Absolutely.
and then just reach out to him, say this
Just
is
to make sure, but yeah,
that we
have
brought
his
it to the
contact.
attention.
email it or text it to me.
I will.
I'll follow up with it.
Yeah, I think his indication was he tried to get
Well,
hold of
his
somebody
contact.
over at the engineer's office and no one got back to him.
Yeah. I think that's all they
Yeah.
probably
Yeah,
want is a get in touch and let them know that, that we.
I'll just reiterate exactly what you got.
Yeah. Great, thank you, Gary. Thank you. Commissioners, in addition to that, I had a phone call from the engineer. The state was originally asking 203,000 for the Salt Dome property, and they came down to 150. Now, it's a lot of property for 150 out of Ferguson, Hubbard, Brookfield, those areas there. I don't know, it might be something that we should look at or consider. That's been the best offer yet. So I know we're short on money, but
Are they looking for a counter offer?
well, we've done it and I don't know that, actually, it's a better offer than what I got because they were holding out to 203. And I said, listen, come on, give us a break. We came up with the diverging diamond with money that, but they're kind of now.
I think if we get the Port Authority to dump our Chestnut building, we make that kind of money off that building and being known net loss,
I don't know, you know.
sell the property if we're gonna buy one.
And we do have a grant for sewer.
$175,000 for sanitary.
We have $175,000 grant for a sanitary extension out there. Without us buying it, then we
Well, here's
lose.
the other thing. It has what, 1 or 2 salt domes over there that probably could put up for $100,000.
Oh, they're 250, at least 250. I mean, it's something to consider.
Well, I think
You
you
know?
have to consider it.
Is 150, the engineer doesn't have that kind of money himself to do it?
It's not in our budget this year.
Well, originally, the engineer wanted to split it, but I didn't know, we thought that the
Well, we were
commissioner
trying to
should
lease
own
it
it.
for $1, but I don't know where that's at.
Yeah, Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineering commissioners, you know, I have to acquire property on multiple projects. The sanitary engineers pay for that for you, we put it in your name. We just make that a project cost. I mean, Gary, it wasn't that. Taking into account, why don't this just be a project cost and part of the project?
Gary Schaefer, from County Engineer's Office. Well, it's not a project. It would actually be property and building acquisition. This is a brand new, or not a brand, it would be a facility for us. It's got the offices, the 2 domes, it's got the scales.
All right, I'm usually able to use funding sources to be able to acquire property.
Is it eligible? Yeah, our funding is eligible to purchase it. There's been discussions, different ones, whether it's been split 50-50 with the commissioners.
Yeah.
I've been part of some of the conversations, not part of. others.
Yeah, I did speak to David about
But
that.
ODOT did tell me as long as it's paid for in the next biennial, so they're pretty much telling me to spread it over 2 years with payments.
Yeah.
So can we make money available in next year's budget?
Who's the contact person that you're dealing with from ODOT, you know?
I'd have to go back to the emails. It was a right of way guy or a legal guy early on. It was probably late last year, early this year. He's out of Columbus.
Well, maybe we can get our state reps involved, and maybe they can help us lower the cost. We'll try, they're coming in, but, and it's weeks up, yeah. We'll put that on the agenda. But try to get us a name.
Yeah, David, you know, David will get me a name. Who he spoke to, Commissioner. The engineer spoke to them personally, evidently, so we'll get a name from him.
Yeah, I mean, the gentleman I spoke to last was more laying out what could and couldn't be done, and he had nothing to do with the negotiation of the cost itself.
Yeah.
It's just how it would be paid.
Okay. Either way, whatever way, it's
I think we
it's
need
a
that
lot
facility.
of stuff there for what, you know, for what the, so.
Yeah, we could definitely use the facility for the county. And the townships.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. Jennifer's here?
Yeah.
Are we on 18?
Commissioners, Jen Jones, Geography Trumbull Solid Waste District. Every 5 years, we are required by Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio EPA to update our 5-year plan. So our plan is our guidebook, our playbook for the next 5 years, what programs we're going to offer, what kind of materials we're going to accept, and just generally how we're going to conduct business for the next 5 to 15 years. That plan has to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners for both Geauga and Trumbull counties, because we're a multi-county district, as well as the largest cities, which would be Warren and Chardon, as well as 60% of the population from each county. This is just part of that process. You've seen I sent a copy of the draft plan. The EPA is fine with the plan so far. We've received approval from about 70% of the population of each county. I will be looking to get 100%. We have the Geauga Board of Commissioners as well as the 2 largest cities have approved it. So we're just looking for an approval to move forward with our next 5-year plan.
Thank you, Jeff.
Any questions?
Our next meeting is gonna be, right,
Yes, next week,
next week.
a week from today. It's our budget meeting. So just Mark, I believe you were going to be out of town. I think
Yeah.
Commissioner Malloy, you're going to be out of town. Ooh, okay, then we might have to reschedule.
We have a quorum.
Well, if all 3 of the Geauga commissioners come, we would need 4 of 6, and of course Commissioner Bernard would have to make it. But I will check to make sure all 3 of the Geauga commissioners coming, because it is an important meeting. It's our, in Geauga County, since we go through the Geauga auditor, they do their budgeting in July. So we have to put our budget for next year up, we have to approve it so that I can go to the budget meetings in July and put forward our budget.
Can you see her make that phone call?
Yes, absolutely, I'll do it today.
And I don't know, Commissioner, are you available?
I-
Okay. You can reach out to them and let us know.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Okay, John Gargano.
Morning, John Gargano, Trumbull County Department of Job and Family Services. Number 19 is to approve a personnel action for Mr. Gary Robinson. Social worker 3 with the agency beginning Monday, June 30th, 2025. And he would serve a 9-month probation period. This gentleman would have been on last week with the others that I requested approval of, but his background check didn't come in time, so that's why he's this week. And number 20 is to adopt, asking the commissioners to adopt a resolution proclaiming Sunday, June 15th as Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Trumbull County. I have a, excuse me, for Commissioner Hernandez and Commissioner Bernard. Excuse me, we have a department called Adult Protective Services where we investigate abuse, neglect, and exploitation of those individuals that are 60 years and older. And we have cases that we, when we investigate, they go through the process, and if there's some issues, we even refer them to guardianship, which we have a contract with an attorney to do those type of things. So we're always in an investigation, and for the commissioner's knowledge, last year there were 950 APS referrals to the agency dealing with elderly abuse, which has increased over the years. I've been doing this with them as the attorney for 40 years, and when I started, you only got a few, 2 or 3 a year, but as time has gone on, it has just increased immensely. Out of those 950, 259 were screened in for investigation, and then 15 were referred to guardianship because of the needs of the individuals in those cases. We also are involved to get the word out with different programs or different events like Boomers and Beyond, which is done by the Tribune. We are a sponsor for that. To try to get the word out to the people to understand that, about elder abuse and what we attempt to do in assisting those manners. And then the only other thing is through the state, we were able to obtain some money to assist elderly in dealing with their food and things like that. So in the last year, we've helped 12 these elderly individuals, and not perishable goods, but canned goods, toiletries, things of that nature. And we have helped 12 individuals and spent approximately $2,656.71. What we do is when they go out and investigate, they take a look, they see what's in their pantries or refrigerators, whatever, and they'll ask them, what do you need and things like that. So what we will do, then we go with a voucher to Giant Eagle. We purchase whatever it is they may need up to $200, and then we bring those groceries and toiletries to their homes to try to help.
It's a great thing to do. And, we hear about child abuse, but there is adult abuse.
There's much more than everybody really realizes.
Yeah.
And although I have 3 investigators, and I'm going to bring it tomorrow, so, you guys know who they are. It's much more sometimes than they can handle. They go into some difficult situations in the homes. Like I said, I used to do that too, and some of those are deplorable conditions that you see there, but we're doing the best we can. So I'm asking for that.
John, I had a lady contact me recently. She said she went through the elder abuse thing and they gave her an attorney in Akron. She said it's the attorneys in Akron Do we use local attorneys or is it all that way?
We have, we use the agency GAPS for guardianship. And that is attorney Josh Harris. I don't know what that was about, but if you have her name and her number, you can give it to me and, you know, we can call her and I can call her or have one of my investigators call her to see what that's all about. I have a question. Once you go in and, you find out that during the meeting, you give them $200, is that for a year or do you go back and? No, well, this is money that was provided to us by the state. It's actually from the state, it's ARPA 2 funds that we were able to obtain. And it's really, that money runs out here September 3rd, September of this year. And what we do, if an individual, say, needed some food or whatever it is, but they go out again, because if they're under our investigation, they'll go out every so often. If they need more food or supplies, then, you know, we will look at that and get that. Where would those funds come from when the ARPA runs out? That's just it. We don't have that extra funds. The state is not providing us, you know, with additional funding and stuff like that. That was through that ARPA 2 funds through the state, specifically for APS, Adult Protective Services. So what will happen to the program with no funds? Well, unless the state gives us more funds, there's not a whole lot we could do. That's another issue that we should bring up next week.
Are you finding, John, with elder abuse, is it mainly individuals, the elders that have like dementia or like some sort of?
It's a wide range. It's a wide range. A lot of them, it's dementia, other illnesses or maladies that they've been stricken with,
Or diseases or
diseases and stuff like that. And then there's some that, you know, you go in and you investigate and you get an assessment, and they have the capacity to understand the consequences of their environment, and there's nothing you could do. We get calls from family and friends and say, well, you didn't do anything for, you know, John Doe. Well, we've gone there, we've got an assessment from a physician, and, you know, physician says person in essence is fine. And then, you know, we even send out the individuals sometimes from the guardianship to have him go out there and take it. But unless he has an assessment that says this individual is in need of some sort of help, not a whole lot we could do. And then the neglect could be from an individual or self.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Look
Thank you.
forward to that proclamation. Planning Commission. Nick?
Right here, Commissioner.
Oh, there it is.
Sorry. Agenda items 21 and 22 are actually going to be the same thing. There are amendments to previously approved agenda items. We failed to put the number that's going to be, well, we mentioned the grant loan was originally approved, we didn't put the fund number. So this is a correction to both of those journal items to add the specific fund number that we'll be paying for them. This fund number is the grants, the PY24 grant. This is not going to be paid for by the commissioner. So again, 21, 22, just amending to add the corresponding fund number that's going to be paying for the services under that contract.
Thank you, Nick. Alex, I think you could take 23, 32, 33, and 34 if you like. I believe those are your agenda items.
23 is Alex Stephen Joseph Bush, Human Resources Director. 23 is in coordination with the Sanitary Engineers Department. It is a personnel action, so I don't disagree with you. Simply to transfer the employment of Mr. Robert Perry from the position of laborer, currently pay range 35 years, 1820, to the position of sewer line maintenance assistant, pay range 6, 5 years, 2190, with the Trumbull County Sanitary Engineers Department, effective Thursday, June 12th. This is extremely important. I did talk with Bob in depth yesterday. Obviously, it's due to employee resignation, but it's not all the time that we have employees who are willing to go get the required CDL licensure that we need. So we need to make sure that we're continuously promoting those people, giving them the opportunity to get their CDLs. Because if not, we're going to lose all of them, and they are required to have them in certain jobs amongst this town. So I think we learned that just in one of the tours that we were working with, one of the best things is we learned from going out in Trumbull County. These employees can go work for a private entity in Trumbull County at a trucking company, and as you heard, make, upwards of 80, 90, whatever. Yes, they don't have a nice schedule, 8:30 to 4:30, yes, they don't have nights and weekends off, and we have, better benefits, but we do need to make sure that we're trying to consistently retain those CDL employees here in this town.
Yeah. You want to skip the 32, 3, and 4 review
Well, it's up to you,
while you're on?
I will do whatever you.
No.
32 is the personal action, for the employment, which is great, of Dustin Folks for the full-time position of 911 telecommunicator in the 911 department, earning $17.96 per hour, effective Sunday, June 15th. Commissioners, as you know, they serve a 180-day probationary period. They have to pass the pre-employment background check, drug screen, and skills assessment. So it is a cumbersome process. And of course, with that, we know that every time we find somebody, we lose somebody. So 33 is to approve the resignation of Jessica Rozier, 911 telecommunicator in the 911 department, effective immediately. She chose to leave for another job. And last but not least, the resignation of Mike Gutterby, 911 supervisor in the Trumbull County 911 department, effective immediately. I'll let Casey.
Yeah, Casey's here to,
Yep.
Casey.
Tate McDonough, I'm a director. As Alex said, every time we take one step forward, we take three back. Jessica, was even asked hypothetically if we could pay her $40 an hour, if she would stay. She said no. So what we've learned over the past several years is people are wanting quality of life over quality of pay. Meaning, they don't want to work 24/7, 365. Our job is obviously all three shifts. People want weekends off. Jess has kids, so obviously she's missing a lot of her kids' lives. So that was an easy decision for her. As for Mike, similar situation. It was laid out adamantly what shifts he would be needed for, which was mostly afternoons and nights. He came to us about 10 weeks into training and said, is there any way he could do days? Night shift didn't work out for him, and it's not that type of job. They don't get to pick your hours. Some places like 911, you're there 20 years before you see a day shift, just because seniority, and that's how it kind of rolls. I did the same thing when I was, a beginning dispatcher. I worked 12 years of straight afternoons when I had little kids and didn't see them. So those are the sacrifices these employees make. And while they're not paid enough across the state, until things change at that level, when they change the 911 fees to get more funding for 911, we aren't going to see those things re-raised, elevate. And until they're classified as actual 911, operators and a first responder, currently they're still classified, as Alex has said before, as secretaries. And that's not the correct classification for them. They don't just sit there and answer phones. That's a big part of their job, but they're taking calls, handling people at their worst. Shootings, emergencies, suicides, train versus car, train versus bike, like we had the other day, the house explosion in Liberty, which was a crazy event the other day. Those are things they handle every day, and not everybody's built for that. I know a lot of the feedback I'll get from this board and previous boards is what's going on in 911. There's a lot of turnover rate. There's a lot of turnover rate in the entire US in 911. It's not a job for the faint of heart. It's not a job that most people like to do. And despite how great people interview and you think they're going to work out, you put them in that seat and they don't. So that's just how it happens. You're basically throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping one sticks and that you get a good candidate. And that's where we're at. It's unfortunate, but it's a cycle that we're in, and it's not one that's fun. With that being said, I invite you and Commissioner Bernard both to come down and see the 911 center sometime and see what they deal with. Maybe come down and spend an hour, see what the environment's like, see what phone calls are like. I know Commissioner Molloy's been down there many times, so he's very familiar with it. But I think you guys being new in your terms, it would be beneficial for you to actually see what happens, because everybody can armchair quarterback on one day and say what they would have done yesterday, but until you see it firsthand, you don't get a good grasp of kind of what it's like down there and what kind of calls they handle and the environment and what happens.
It's a stressful, very stressful job. I don't know from experience that it is, but I know that, there's a lot of calls that they take that are, very stressful. And hopefully this is a reason why we can make this move. that will offer a better environment, at least a better environment.
I think that'll help. It'll help morale. It'll help being able to look out like this and see window and see daylight and not be, stuck in a dungeon, as you know, most people. We have call offs if people are sick, so a lot of people are stuck there for 12 hours today that don't actually get to see the daylight. Maybe get a couple breaks here and there to run and hit the restroom, but that's about it. So I think that will help entice maybe some more applicants as well. Being that you have a nice new center. Maybe we can steal some people from other departments, like what happens to us a lot of times, maybe get some lateral transfers with that new environment, that new center. So those are things that I think will definitely help. It's not gonna hurt by any means.
Commissioner, I gotta agree with that 100%. I think that's one of the biggest problems there. Is the morale, and like she said, sometimes they come to work, it's dark, they leave, it's dark, they never see daylight all day, there's no windows. There's nowhere to go eat outside, they can't leave, their lunch is only a half hour there. And that's something that's weird with us is everyone's talking about, well, county only works 6.5 hour work days, you get an hour for lunch and 2 15-minute breaks. They don't at 911. They're working more than any other county employee, and that's not taking into consideration their pay. They can't leave for an hour to go eat lunch. They used to be able to walk to Hillside back in the day, and Hillside had a cafeteria, and that was the highlight of their day, was walking across the parking lot to go get a hot meal for a half hour. And they stopped those services 8 years ago or so, and then now they have to pack what they have, or they got to order it in, and it's literally a rat race when they're there. I mean, the ones that smoke have to run outside, suck a quick cigarette down, then right back, inside. That the ones that don't smoke don't get that opportunity to go outside and until you see it, like she said, you're gonna be shocked when you come back and you realize the smell of the place, the dungeon atmosphere. It is asbestos filled in the building upstairs. I mean, they've had that documented. I can't believe we're letting these employees still continue to work there. I mean, we really need to light a fire and get them out of there. And I think once you see that, you're gonna agree.
Oh, no, I've seen, I haven't personally seen, but this is the reason why we need to push forward with a new center. Definitely need to do that.
I've seen in my 2.5 years, I've seen 20 employees leave, at least one,
I know.
maybe 30. And in that time, we're still 7 less than when I got here. So it's declining. We keep just pushing it under the rug and ignoring it. We got to do something about it.
It's just unfortunate because like I said, just when we get a little bit of hope that we're catching up or get, when we had 3 in training that just got released and then we lost one for medical, lost another for long-term medical, and lost one for retirement, so you have those, it's not everybody quitting, but we also, the thing that scares me to death is there are probably 5 employees that could quit within the year, could retire.
At least
And-
3. At least.
And the problem with that is we're not seeing the candidates who want to do the work. We're seeing people who want a job. We're not seeing people who want to do that type of work, those type of hours, and then who can function and be capable of doing the job. That's the hard part. There's a lot of memory retention that you need to have. It's fast paced, it's multitasking. You need to be able to talk on the phone and hear the radio at the same time. And a lot of people aren't made to do that. It's nothing against them. And we don't know that. Let's see, you try great. I mean, me sitting here talking to you, I can say, he's a sharp guy, he's gonna pick it up. You can sit there and be like, nope, you know what I mean? So that's the unfortunate thing.
I have a couple comments. Last week it was brought up about the asbestos and I mentioned it, if that's a serious problem, let's get it inspected and get people out of there. And then I found out that we have people that are living upstairs. So, is the asbestos, is that a serious problem? If it is, let's get it inspected immediately. If it's not, then why do we have people that are living upstairs? So, I need that question answered, first of all. And second of all, I agree that we need a new center, but I'm gonna put it back on the old board. They had $38 million of ARP money and they didn't deal with it.
Well, we didn't have, again, Commissioner, you bring this up every week.
Let me finish, okay? And now you want to put it on the taxpayers for a levy, okay? And
That was
I-
tax money too.
But if it was so critical, why didn't you allocate $1 million?
We didn't have a director. We had a director who was there for 3 years as acting director.
She came in August of 2023.
That's right.
All right, and you still had $23 million left.
Right, and we needed to hire people, and we looked to hire, and then she needed to get the review board done, and we had to do the study,
You had
feasibility.
the money and you didn't, it wasn't
We
a
paid for
priority
feasibility
then.
study.
It's a priority now when you don't have the money, but it wasn't.
Commissioner, you haven't even been there. I can't believe you're saying this. I'm starting to get ticked off.
Well, you can
5
get-
months.
You can get.
5 months, you haven't been there.
want.
You haven't been to sanitary engineers to see how they work. You haven't been to job and family services to
Well,
see the
you've been
employees
there, you
there.
had the money and you didn't deal with it.
Commissioner, you guys, you need to get out of the office and go see these people and see how they work
Well,
to
first of
understand it.
all, I don't need you to tell me what to do and what not to do. And second of all, you had the money and you didn't deal with it. And
Commissioners,
that's where you get
we're just
upset.
going down an old.
You're gonna bring this, you had the money, we had the money for everything. We could took $38 million and built a new jail. Are you gonna say next, when the jail runs bad, you should have bought a jail, you should have built a jail?
Well, let me ask you a question. Why?
Do you wanna go, we can get a car right now and go,
Why
and
didn't they bring
we
it
can
up?
go,
Why didn't they bring it up when you had the money?
It was.
let's go repo Howland's ambulance. Let's go take the ambulances back, Commissioner. Where do you think the money went?
Prior to me getting
Give
here,
me the hell.
and when I got here, the money was allocated.
Where are you supposed to get the money from? Tell me that.
Well, we can, and I don't, nobody's,
If you wanna go back in time, this should have been dealt with 20 years ago.
well, we have not talked about raising taxes and putting on a taxpayer. We did mention about taking out, loans 1 year.
Like every other county
I
does.
mean, we are a little bit behind on the loans. That's my understanding. I'd have to look and make sure that I'm speaking from what I've understood.
When I
There's a
came here,
lot
we
of-
had no debt on the books, zero.
No.
We didn't even have credit ratings, we had no
If
debt,
we could possibly
How much
take,
debt would we have now? Do you know?
very little.
I was told we had 18 million.
I don't know how that could be. We had a roof on the
That's the
engineers
argument.
building, we had an
Well,
elevator.
I got a report a couple months ago. And I believe it said 18.
but I just
million.
wanted to make it clear that we haven't talked about the 911 about, putting a tax on. We did discuss the possibility of, the loan to do that. And it spread it out over, multiple years. And then look down the road about what we're gonna do moving forward with
We
that.
need a financial plan, okay, which we don't have in this county, okay? We have 2 or 3 other problems. We have the coroner that's a problem, okay?
Right.
And we just got to know where we're going, all right? And how we're gonna get the money. I'm not gonna borrow money when I don't know how we're gonna pay it back.
But
Well,
criticizing the past doesn't bring us any more
Well,
money or
but,
create a
you
plan.
know what, yeah, but you keep bringing up things, it's a dungeon.
It is.
But you know what? if
That's
you
one of
know
the reasons
that-
I
if
ran,
you've known
because the
that for
conditions
2.5
over there.
years, Denny, and you didn't do anything about it when you had the money.
We've given a lot of money in 911 over the last 2 years, an awful lot of money.
You didn't give any for the building of the new center.
No, but we did broker the deal with the health department to get the upstairs. That's been pending for a year and a half now.
Well, Commissioner.
I was the one in on that deal to get the health department moved over there.
Let's
If
move
you
forward
remember,
here, because we.
if you would have went to a meeting and seen, you would have seen, I was part of that to get the health department where they are. We brought the Port Authority in to help them make the deal happen, and that's where the opportunity presented itself. I went to 3 or 4 other sites and looked at them.
You could talk all you want, you had the money, and you didn't allocate it.
We'll just
End of
let's leave it at that, Commissioners. Let's move on to, we got Gary, 24.
All right, Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer, Commissioner, item 24, this is just a further presentation of the Meadowbrook area, that sewer project. Well, mentioned in here, we gave Burgess and Maple approximately $1.5 million to design the entire project area. During that time, it was determined we would break it into 4 construction phases. That first phase, you can see down there in the note, we gave them a modification of $805,550, and that was for the construction and administration of the first phase. This modification is the Pendleton Gilmore phase, or phase 2, basically. And this is to award them an additional plus $700,000, and this is for construction and administration for the Pendleton Gilmore project, of which we just had that public hearing last week. So, we took out a note for this, and it's time to go ahead and execute this modification. And as the project progresses, I will get these funds reimbursed back to us through the EPA.
Right, yes, we did have a good meeting there. We had a good attendance to that meeting. 25, okay. 911, I think, Jason, is this me? I'm
No,
not sure.
that was actually, sorry, Sherry Taylor, Commissioner.
Oh,
It was the wrong fund. That's what this amendment is for. We need to pay it out of this.
okay.
That's where it has to come out.
And what is that
Okay.
for?
It's 001. That is actually it's transferred over to engineering from the contingency fund.
And it was coming out of the wrong fund.
Because we can't pull it directly out of the contingency fund. I need it to move it to the appropriate fund, which is the engineering architect. And that is the second fund number. It should be 001. It's just a typo. It's 001 to 001.
Okay. We say you can handle that. Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Mike? Right. When you're ready to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner. This next Salmon, my transit administrator. So item number 26 is 1210. Commissioner's regular meeting dated February 12, 2025. Item number is to award the contract for the RFP 2024-01 purchase transportation for 20 vendors. Okay, I'm not going to read through all that, but basically the amendment is necessary due to a letter that we received, which is the top copy of the sunset. They are requesting to have a minimum charge put on similar to the way the other vendors are. And then after that, the letter is a email trail. And on the fourth page is the response from prosecuting attorney saying, yes, we can do this.
So they put it out for bid, they got the bid, now they want to change the terms of their bid after the fact.
Would like to add a minimum charge.
And how does that minimum charge compare to the other ones?
This minimum charge is the exact same minimum charge that Comfort Caravan has. Because they're the only ones that have the wheelchair. So the wheelchair amounts are exact as what Comfort Caravan is, and the minimum charge for the non-wheelchair are the exact same.
We're asking an additional $5. Is that what it is? 35 to 40? This is. So we'd like to proceed with the minimum charge of 35 for ambulance and for 40 for wheelchair. Okay.
Yeah. That's what they were asking. And I wanted to be in line with what I like to see what Comfort Caravan
44, 30 and 45.
And after they bid that, it's all right at the prosecutor's office that we changed it.
This was something that Jason from our office looked at, so I take him, I believe that he looked at this and knew what he was talking about on it.
Okay, the Commissioner Malloy admitted you bid it and then you raise it. I mean, is that? Of course, if the prosecutor approves it.
They didn't raise their, what was bid, they just requested for a minimum charge.
But it was kind of after they saw everyone else was getting it and their bids.
Actually, it was for different reasons. It was because they were looking at the books and seeing how much they were using.
What does that raise them actually? I don't know I really don't know
Okay.
what I'm looking at here. So if we raise their ambulatory, non-ambulatory, how much is that per trip?
Okay, off the top of my head, I can't give you a number.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go at least 1 month. However, I was looking at the bill. This last bill, there were there were trips out there for $5.
Yeah,
$6 because they're only charged mileage. So those trips will go from $5 to 29.
oh,
Did anybody else bid this for that this section of the county?
Sorry,
Did any other companies bid this for this section of the county?
when we did this,
Did they bid the original proposal?
was it based on the bid at a higher rate? They came in lower and won the contract.
the ones that we did not take did not even have numbers like this. That's what you're asking. Like I said, this was Comfort Caravan's numbers for the minimum bid. The other ones that bid were in the $70 range for minimum.
We had the discussion because there were a couple on the bubble and we said, why'd you stop here and not use anyone below? And now we're bumping up the people above where the cut line was. It just, something about that just doesn't sit well.
I think really Commissioner like to speak with Toth concerning it if he's behind it to see what his comments are. Rather than approve something that we really haven't talked to the prosecutors. I mean, Bill is not aware because he didn't work on it, so. We could bring it up on on another meeting after speaking with prosecutor.
I agree.
But I'm okay with that. I know there was some cut. There were 2 or 3 that didn't make the cut. And came down to pricing and a bunch of various things. And now if we raise it to one of the ones above,
Those are the
we
questions.
gotta look to see if we're still comparing
Right.
apples to apples.
To be honest with you, if they would have put this in the regular bid, they still would have scored fairly high compared to the other ones because their minimum,
We'd say that with any bid.
no. Their minimum, if their minimum bid was in the $35 range compared to 70, that's what I'm saying. So if they would have put it in, so this right here wouldn't have changed the bid process.
Like, I guess without seeing that, I'm trusting you that
Right,
the other bids were at 70.
Right.
You know, we'd have to look and see.
right.
I
They
guess if
were-
we see that, that makes a difference.
Yeah. They were at 6, 7 or 7.
Well, we'll look at it on table
Question is,
for now.
how do you raise something once it's already been bid? That's what I like to have.
Well, that's why I tried to do my due diligence. Before I did this, ask the prosecuting office, and he came back saying yes. So I didn't do anything until. And that's why I said on page 4 of this document, it states that he says yes.
Right, but it's a 3-year bid and we already accepted the bids, awarded the bids, and now we're changing the rules for the next 3 years after the
What
bids.
happens
were
if we
submitted.
don't grant the raise? Are we locked in at these rates then?
Sorry.
If we don't grant the raise increase, then they have to perform this for 3 years under this contract.
If the commissioners decide not to do this, they would just stay under what they're doing presently, which is just the strict mileage. So I believe this was 289. Right?
Means we save a lot of money to provide a lot more rides for seniors.
Right.
However, they could opt out also. That's another possibility. They would opt out. Because if they're losing money,
Could the other companies absorb those rides?
that's the problem. I mean, we're at the point that 2 of the companies are already at their max. So the only other company that we have that could absorb.
What's the ridership up there?
Sunset?
About how many?
Okay, the starting, the very first, they've only been going for a couple of months. The first one was about 160 rides for the month,
That's round trips?
one way.
Yeah, if you round trip it, are you talking,
They,
are you talking 80 or are you talking 320? So you're
This last meeting, and so this last bill that we just received, and I received it yesterday, there were 292 one-way trips, which would be about 150 round trips. And
How does that compare to down here?
Uh,
How does that compare to the area down here? What, if you combine those?
I've actually, I haven't received all my numbers from the other vendors. What I was gonna do was, come here either next week or the following week and give you good comparisons of how Sunset has, expanded.
It just has to be presented somehow better, because right now we're looking at part of the shine of this program was we're providing rides, which cost the county like $5, $7, $9 for a ride compared to buses and other companies and other services. Now we're talking a minimum trip of $29 every time they pick somebody up. That's Uber. I mean, for less than that for some trips like that.
I hate to. But actually, the average trip with the grant money is about $32. That's what it costs. For average trip.
Is that one way or is that double? Is that round trip?
So
So it's actually
64
64 now.
round trip.
Right. And we had an old program where I remembered in my notes, there was $40 a ride or so, and people got rid of it.
With community bus service, which was back in 2018 and 19, the average trip over their lifespan was well over $40 at that time. And now you're saying
One way or both ways.
one way. Everything I say, I apologize, is one way. So that's an $80 round trip. You're talking well over 5 years ago. And we're still more than $8 to $10 below what they were.
Yeah, but if they're with a wheelchair, they're $90 for a round trip right now, $88.
Right.
We're being billed the county to take someone to and from the doctor.
I'm just doing the overall trips and
And senior levy is cutting services
Is that
on
one way or two ways?
$88 is 2 ways, but we're cutting services now. Diane was just in here saying out of that same pot of money, we're not be able to provide home health care for hundreds of seniors, if not thousands. We can't mow grass. We're out of money for all this stuff, but we're paying $88 for a round trip ride to go to the grocery store or the doctor. Sounds to me like something's getting a little skewed.
And again, with procurement, when we bid this, his rate last year was 45. He dropped $1. And then next year it's the same, and then the year after that, it's a $2 more. So he actually dropped his rates. What he did last.
Yeah, we're not talking comfort care, we're talking Sunset over here.
No, I know that. I'm just saying.
I agree with Commissioner Malloy. We need everything on paper so we can look at everything and compare everything and see where we're going.
Well, I
Along-
suggest
along
to table this item for now and then discuss this.
I worry we had a replacement levy that's bringing in more money now. And now companies that are working with us are saying, hey, they made more money, so we can raise our rates instead of the way that it was. I worry we're heading that direction. We provide the same service for more because they know we have it.
Okay. You good, Commissioner?
Yeah, good.
You good? We'll table that for now. We'll discuss that. And then we'll talk with Jason and see what that looks like, just to make sure we're covering all bases.
Just wanting more information from me.
Yeah, we want to see the whole package
Yeah. So like who got cut, what prices they were at.
compared to this and what they actually bid.
Okay, well, yeah, we've got that. That's. I think like that.
This is a little collection.
Okay, Mike, thank you. We have anybody here from mental? This is an appointment. I don't know what this is blank here. To appoint who?
Commissioners, you received.
We got the packets 2 weeks ago with a couple names.
Are we supposed to put them in?
Just one now, who you want to appoint.
She recommended. She recommended a couple.
I have.
Yeah, you have to pull them.
We review those and then see if there's somebody we want to put forward, and we'll all look at our choices and see.
Okay, so you want to follow through with this tomorrow? Here. We have 1, 2, 3 commissioners. Did you take any of this into consideration? Are you gonna just look at
I
this?
didn't know what was coming up today.
Yeah, I didn't either, so.
I
She
have to
needs
pull-
some.
for tomorrow?
Yeah, she needs it
Okay.
as soon as possible.
Are any of these reappointments? Two positions?
I don't believe so.
We have 4 candidates.
And one of them I see, and that's probably why she needs it, is June 11th is when the one term starts, and you're gonna need a quorum, and I think she was low on quorum members. So she needed someone for this week, at least one of them to get up to a quorum.
You have the applications here.
I do. We have a Matt Martin,
None of them are reappointments?
Dave Papita, Sharice Pat, and a Curtis Green.
Is it Matt Martin, our TNP guy? It is.
TCAP, Executive Director of Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership.
I have no problem with him. I mean, he's
I wouldn't have a problem with
been
him
a great
either.
employee so far with what he's done with that.
And she did say she needs males.
Did she recommend him
There was a recommendation.
for him?
Yep.
All right, so he'll be Matt Martin's one.
I'm good with that.
Sharice Patterson. Okay, why don't you wanna look
We
at
have to
these?
have the name, yeah. You want to fill in the names now or do it tomorrow?
Well, let's review the other ones. Matt Martin, we're okay with.
Yeah,
Let's him for
Matt
the first
Martin.
one. And then let's review the other ones and see if we can do some research, maybe call if we need to interview or.
Right.
I'm not familiar with the other one, so I don't want to just pick a name.
We'll do him for June, we'll have that one.
Yeah.
She needs that right away.
You wanna skip the other
Yeah,
one
well,
for
Well,
now?
we can leave it on there, and if one of us does make contact with them and decides there's someone they want, then throw it out there tomorrow. If not, we'll table it.
Okay. So right now, we're just gonna appoint Matt Martin to a 3-year term commencing June 11, 25 to June 30, 28. And then we'll look at these other 3. And we'll make our decisions tomorrow. Okay, we're all good with that then? 7, 8, 9, 30. Zach, is this you?
Yeah, 29, 30, and 31 are all. Zachary Smith, Executive Director for Trumbull County Metro Parks. Items 29, 30, and 31 all related to phase 4 bike trail. 29 is to approve the preliminary participatory legislation for phase 4 Greenway project. Lisa has that. It's lengthy one, so just asking for Rick to execute that legislation. Item number 30 is for modification number 5 with GPD for the engineering on that, and that will close out their contract, and that's for an additional $127,710. That brings the total contract to $967,420. And we're asking for authorized to proceed with part 14 and the commissioners to sign the modification letter agreement. No general funds are being asked for this agreement. We're using funds, within our 983 account for that. And item number 31, there's 2 portions in this. I put them together because they're just action items. Just proceed with the trail project. So the first portion is to approve payment of $260 for the NOI notice of intent to disturb permit for phase 4 of the Greenway Trail through the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. And that's based on our 8.65 acres of ground disturbance. And then the last portion is to allow the President of Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Hernandez, to sign and execute the conditional approval letter with Buckeye Partners. This conditionally accepts and approves the proposed construction of the Greenway Trail across Buckeye's 8-inch diameter high-pressure pipeline located in the city of Mount Horn and Willettsfield Township.
And this is all for the last phases for this project.
Yes.
Any questions, commissioners, on this? Commissioner Bernard. Thank you, Zach.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, you already went through 32 through 34. 35 is to adopt a resolution for regular purposes of Board of Trumbull County Commissioners. Regular meeting will be held Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. at Trumbull County Fairgrounds. Of course, the fair is going to be going on 179th annual. 36,
And Commissioner, first on number 35,
yeah,
the regular meeting will be Wednesday, July 9th.
right.
The ribbon cutting and opening ceremony, which we traditionally have attended, is on Tuesday, 10 a.m. That's our workshop day.
That'll be on the Tuesday,
Yeah,
the 8th.
so do we want to adjust the time of our workshop or do our workshop at the fair in one of the buildings there, or how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, it's the ribbon cutting.
Yes.
We probably should just have a workshop right there. Commissioner Bernard?
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but, you know, department heads, everybody's gonna have to
Oh,
go out
that's
there
right.
for that. Why don't we just,
Yeah.
I don't believe we've ever done that.
yeah, why don't we just come
No.
back here, just do it at.
I didn't think about that, yeah.
Usually. No, Tuesday. You fast track.
Usually that meeting, there's nothing pressing on the agenda because we have the public and kids and 4-H that make up a bulk of that meeting. So as Lisa and I discussed earlier, we may not even need a workshop that week. I mean, if there's something on the agenda, we need to reach out to a department head, we probably could, but I don't think we're putting anything controversial on that agenda meeting because it is something that's more of a feel-good type of thing at the fairgrounds. And if it is all that on the agenda, then we probably wouldn't need a workshop. Now, of course, there's a lot of pressing stuff every week now we have,
Yes, there's a lot.
but
You never know what's gonna get submitted.
Lisa, can you speak to commissioners? The only concern is there's no meeting next week already, right?
Correct.
So if there's no meeting next week, there's going to be a backlog following week. Which is
Following
also a
week.
holiday.
Right, the following this meeting, which would be the last week of June, is
Oh,
on
okay.
Friday,
Oh,
Friday the 27th.
right.
And then there's still going to be a meeting the week of July 4th.
Okay.
So we should be okay.
Obviously, we're not having any executive sessions.
You're proposing to skip the workshop?
What are we gonna do?
We're proposing to skip the workshop?
I mean, we can. Well, there's a few meetings in between, we can play it by ear and see how it's going.
Leave that off tomorrow if we're gonna do that. Oh, no,
No,
no, we got a meeting after we
I
come
would
back.
need to know by the end of the month if I.
We have a planning
cancel the
commission meeting at
workshop.
9 o'clock that day,
And the workshop would be here.
and
this
then you
is
have a
at
10 o'clock.
So it's
We
gonna
could
be kind of,
schedule it at noon, 1 o'clock
What's that?
workshop. Say 1
how are
o'clock.
we gonna go to the planning commission and then be at the fairgrounds by 10 o'clock on the same morning?
Be a short planning commission meeting.
I don't remember being in this dilemma last year. Can we look at last year's notes or last year's schedule? Can you pull that up somehow on your thing and see what we did the previous years?
So we have a planning commission meeting on the 8th,
9.
July 8th at 9. And then we gotta be at the fairgrounds at what time? For the ribbon cutting? 10.
Yeah, so you have to be there.
Geez, I don't even know. How are you
9:45.
gonna make? How are you gonna make the planning commission? Can't.
Yeah.
They may have to, unless they want commissioners present, they may have to switch their meeting. I don't know.
I mean, we can do a workshop later on in the day, if needed. Once we're done. You're gonna be out there for an hour, ribbon cutting, hour and a half. Schedule it at 1 if need be.
There's a planning commission meeting at 8.
Hey,
Any input?
thank you, Jerry.
Nick Huggins, Trumbull County Planning Commission, the planning commission meeting being moved or anything needs to go through the chairperson. We can't speak to that effect. We can make recommendations. I do believe that, in the past, and I'm going off the top of my head, I can double check the minutes, but I believe some of the commissioners missed that meeting and went straight to the, fair. And then some left early, depending on their trip from into Warren, if they were close to the fair, they just went straight there and skipped our meeting. As far as the actual planning commission meeting, our bylaws allow us to continue with the meeting so long as we have a quorum. There are 11 members, 3 of them being commissioners, so we need 6 members. There's 8 remaining, so if we do have the majority, we can still have the meeting with a quorum. Or we can request that the chairperson move the time, but like I said, going off memory in the past, and I'll double check the minutes, but I believe more or less is some commissioners left early so that they can make it on time, and some commissioners just went straight to the fair, so that it was a non-issue when they missed our meeting.
Have you ever had a situation where no commissioner showed up at the meeting?
Yes,
You have?
yeah.
Because we've been to every one.
Yeah,
Past 2 months, we've made every meeting. For the record.
mhm. Yes.
All right, so,
We've had meetings where there were no commissioners, so it's.
okay, so then they could still have the meeting, commissioners, and then we could make it as we can make it.
Right, we come and then we get recognized and then we have to leave 15 minutes. What happens to that?
So when we take our minutes, our executive assistant, Annette, she notes, like, if somebody comes in late, notes that, yes, they weren't there for roll call, but they showed up at 9:08. And if you leave early, she also denotes that, because if we do vote, most of our resolutions are at the end of our agenda. We do need to have a quorum to vote on any of them. So she denotes a time when you arrive or leave, should you be there for roll call, leave early, or miss roll call and arrive late. It's just a note in the
like
minutes.
that. Don't worry about changing hours and everything for.
As long as they know in advance and the other committee members know, then they
Yeah,
have time to plan to be there to make sure they have a quorum.
yes.
So the only thing that
But our thing is we have to announce our, if we have our meetings in a different location.
if we're gonna have a workshop or not. And,
Last year, looks like you didn't have a workshop.
oh,
The
see,
year before you did.
Yeah, 2023.
You could just play it by ear and see what comes up.
see what it's looking like. If there's anything really
You're
pressing.
seeing agenda items, is there?
They do have a building there we can utilize if we needed to.
Hey, the department has to get some fries, fair fries,
Milkshake.
milkshake. Okay. All right, so we'll leave it at that for now.
Okay.
And, Shara, is this you?
Yes, it is. Jared Taylor, Commissioner's Office. You asked me to include the rest of the East Market building, which includes building inspection, archives, and planning. So that was an additional $35,350.96. It's all been discounted. This is a pretty decent price because we're securing all of these buildings at one time. So we have CSEA, which is on the other end of that building, GFS, which is North Park, TAG, which is over on North River, the admin, the back door, and then the rest of the building over at East Market. So we will utilize, the dollar figures have to be changed. I'll have to, but it will not go beyond 205,616.78.
Shara, what do we have left in the contingency, do we know?
Say that creates a dilemma because we appropriated $250 for this, and that was to include the sheriff's department.
I'm not using all of contingency for this. I'm going to take 115,000 out of our small capital improvement project fund, which is 403. So that will reduce that by that amount. So we will not be spending.
Okay, so we can use that 100 toward the evidence room and stuff, and
Yes.
still be within our goal.
Yes.
You're good with that?
I'm great with it. I mean, we do have to secure the buildings. It will help ease some minds. I know over at archives, it was a little bit of a sketchy thing. We are, however, getting a quote for a front door for that building. There was a quote, but Daryl, and again, is getting a new quote because that quote was outrageous, to put it bluntly, just outrageous. So they saved some money on the door across the street at the courthouse, so they are getting quotes for the front door at planning.
Do we need to include that?
No,
Are we doing this now? Is this gonna be separate?
that will be separate, but they will have to hold off on doing this to get that door.
Oh.
That, at least that one door, they'll have to do that one last.
Well, are you talking for planning or are you talking for archives?
Planning is the door that was,
Yeah, but
Yes.
I don't see any planning on here as far as the.
they're the archive.
They shared.
They're the archive. That's that whole rest of the section of East Market. They broke that building up into CSEA, then we have 177, 185 is microfilm for archive, and then planning is upstairs. The whole building's gonna be done, all of the floors, there are 5 floors total.
And CSEA is around back with the
Yeah, and they have,
building inspection.
that, their cost is 45. They're gonna be secure then.
Good. Let's see. Do we have anybody on the agenda here that's wanting to speak?
One thing I had, Commissioner, I don't know if you saw the reports on TV and stuff, but just to give us a heads up, they, when I met with Tom Holloway on an MVSD a year ago, when he was running MVSD before Scott Varner went there, he had said that they need $55 million worth of repairs to Meander Dam. And he said that in a heavy rain scenario, they were at risk, at a high risk of losing the dam and the dam basically wiping out Mineral Ridge and losing our water supply. That covers half of what we do. They had about 30 some million set aside. They'd approached us for ARPA funds up to 20 million to see if we can finish the renovation of the dam, which we did not have at the time. We were in our last 6 or 7 million left when we had the meeting. And they just had a new evaluation on the dam, and it's going to cost over $100 million now on the dam. So it was reported on the news that they have to fix the dam, they have to do it, but there's going to be a drastic increase in the bulk water rate that they're going to have to charge us and Niles and everybody. So we're looking at almost them doubling the rate to Niles, and then us being in a situation next year, maybe having to double our water rates to make up the difference because of the repairs at Meander Dam. So I don't know what we're gonna do about that. I mean, we just had a major battle to get to 1175 to break even where we need to be. And if they go forth with this and they do the $100 million repair to the dam without any state aid, which it's looking like because of this Senate bill, we got 2 things hitting us. The state Senate has cut out all appropriation spending out of their bills in preparation for lowering property taxes. And them knowing they're not gonna have any money left in the state, so they're cutting, we lost any funding we have toward mosquito, the state park budget was cut. Any of the other programs were every day we hear about more programs the state is cutting. Now we have this House Bill 325 or 335 that will lower inside millage, which if this passes, it's Dave Thomas's bill, we're gonna lose $8 million a year out of the general fund. So we're looking at losing $8 million a year out of the general fund. If that bill passes, everyone will pay less property taxes, but the state is saying, go ahead and raise your sales tax up to 3% now instead of 1%. or 2 with the cap, I'm sorry,
Yeah, well, they,
to make the money back, which nobody wants to do.
right, they put it on us.
And then on top of it, and oh, by the way, if you're buying water from Meander, it's gonna be double because we gotta put $100 million into the dam. Which means the bulk rate that we're paying right now with Niles in our next contract is we're gonna have to pass that on, and it might be another $8 to $10 per 1,000 gallons to the consumer that uses it. I mean, I don't know how we're gonna do this.
Well,
I don't know how any
which-
county government's gonna survive in the state if they lower the property taxes where they want to.
right,
I've seen Ashtabula. I've seen some press releases from Portage and other counties. CCAO has taken a stance against it, that the state will still get their share of things, but the local governments are gonna be gutted, and they're gonna expect us to make it off the backs of our citizens
well,
to make up the difference for not collecting the state property taxes.
it makes the state look good, and it makes us look like.
Oh, and it makes the state reps look like we elect them forever, and it makes us look like we all
Drops
gotta go.
everything into our lap. Where's the rainy day fund money that they got? They're sitting on billions of dollars that they should be helping us with. Well, I mean, the government.
I'm just throwing it out there, because this is a real thing, we can't ignore it, it's, I mean, the
Well,
reports,
the whole county's in the same boat, correct?
they are, all counties are in the same
I
boat.
mean, with my, what, they're.
Meander, yes.
Right. So. I mean, we can't fix it without state or federal.
Can we buy more water from Mosquito and not buy from Niles if we reach that scenario?
Commissioner, we'd have to look at that, and the way things are involved, and you got elevation differences, you got certain towers floating together to different districts, and that the hydraulics behind it.
Well, you know Scott Burner better than anybody. I mean, what do you think of these reports? What's your gut feeling on this? So we don't get caught later with.
I don't see something as drastic as $8 now. I do know that once they do find the funding source and they are gonna take out this loan, they're gonna have to make a step payment on that. They're gonna have to rule that into, the millions of gallons per day that they sell.
What about
What that
Aqua?
rate's gonna be, but and then that's gonna get passed on to Niles, and we buy it off of Niles. So,
It's making them look a little bit better.
What about Aqua? Get a proposal from them, what are they gonna charge us for water? They're
and
looming
that's
out
something
there,
we can look into,
I mean, they're looming out there somewhere, I mean.
and that's something we can look into, but they can only supply certain areas too,
Well,
like the
I
southeast.
think we need
I don't think
definitely
they
to
can-
look into that.
Okay, well, that's something we can explore. I know there's some infrastructure improvements that would be needed to get them on board again. Or their
Well, they did
connections
okay for
are
that,
out
too.
there to state line, all that needs replacement, we're looking at millions of dollars. For to make,
Well, let's start a conversation with them and just see where we're at.
it may be premature on that, Commissioner, right now. Let's see what they're gonna do down here at the MVSD. I don't think they're gonna hit us with this rate, in the next week or two. I think they'll get more information. Give us some sort of, prediction of when a rate may occur. And I don't think it's gonna be something that's gonna happen in short order.
Well, let's, a separate issue aside, if they do lower these property values and this bill does pass. Where do we make up that 8 million we're gonna lose?
Well, first of all, it's gotta pass.
Right?
I mean, who knows where it's at? I mean, I'm sure. Dave Thomas, he called me, I'm sure he called each of you and, I told him my concerns. And I agree, he's trying to put the burden on us.
Yeah. They're making us
Yeah.
take all the heat. Releasing it off the state with everything that we're hearing at a state level, and then your commissioners get nailed with having to carry the burden onto the.
Well,
On the
the
tax.
bottom line is the taxpayers, those on fixed incomes, they can't afford.
I don't know where you make up, the only way you can make up 8 million.
The townships are exempt from hospital.
From this one, if you look at some of Mr. Thomas's
Right.
proposals,
There's additional proposals.
yes, they want us to do police or do EMS, fire,
Yeah.
force.
Yeah.
Mandate.
Yeah,
No,
you say your name.
I'm sorry, Dan So's township trustee. We're concerned about Mr. Thomas's. And another one, if you looked, is he wants tax levies to have a 60% vote, not 50 plus 1. those things concern us. But
Now, they concern everybody, and David did call us all to explain, but then we gave him our concerns. I mean, you know, when you're cutting the inside millage and nailing us for 8 million, that's a 1/4% tax. The only way to make up that any additional would be another quarter. Now you're at a half. But they're telling you, oh, you could go to 3. Try to put 3 on.
In
Not
philosophy,
gonna do it.
I love the idea because our voters never voted on inside millage. That was something that was force
Right.
fed to them. They never got a chance to vote. Taxation without representation. So I agree with the philosophy of it. But the bottom line is, all these services we talked about today cost money. And every dollar that we spend came out of somebody else's wallet. Like Ronald Reagan said back in the day, every tax dollar you spend originated in the guy, your next door neighbor's wallet. And that's where it started. And that's what all we're doing is taking this money from people to provide services. Where is the balance? Where is the bottom line with this stuff? And it's not gonna be. You know, there is no pot of gold. We do have great stuff coming out of Foxconn. We got great stuff with Kimberly Clark. It's very, very hopeful for the future. But at the same sense, if we don't get those property taxes, how do you continue on with services we provide the public?
Do you know when this is getting voted on?
It was just introduced officially and they got it on the fast track. And even in the Senate, there's a bill right now for seniors, anyone over 60 to not pay property taxes. So even that would cut us $2 to $3 million.
Well, I personally want to see a rollback of the increase, not a complete elimination. They're just going in, gutting it all. And all I wanted to see was take it back to where it was at, erase
Yeah,
it.
you got something to have a petition to remove it all.
There's a
They're
lot.
trying to sign a petition, put it on the ballot for no property tax.
Well, and David Thomas did mention that. That's why he's doing this bill, because he fears if we do nothing and the state does nothing, then they'll put a referendum on, just eliminate all taxes and the people gut themselves and then
But they can still put that on, either way.
they're still good. I think personally, your house should be valued at what you paid for it and the tax you've been paying on it should be that way until you sell it. If you sell it for more,
Feel the same.
it's based on whatever you sell it for. But that makes too much common sense to politicians.
Well, we're gonna have our work cut out for us. We'll have to see what happens with this bill. And if it does pass, we're gonna have to make some.
Well,
hard
then it
decisions.
has to go to the Senate too.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner. We do have Gina here from KO.
You know? All right.
Commissioner, I wasn't sure if you needed, if you guys had any questions or anything. Kristen could not make it today, but she was gonna come to your meeting tomorrow. So she sent me your replacement.
We had talked about the
Gina, just
consulting.
mention your name first.
Oh, sorry,
please.
Gina Magazine, KO Consulting.
Thank you.
We had talked about that. They have a proposal. I don't know if you brought the new proposal or it's
She
email.
was gonna bring it tomorrow.
Okay. You have a copy of it?
Yeah.
And that's something that I had asked Lisa earlier. Commissioner Bernard had asked, hey, we gotta get this going. We had a legislative thing in DC last weekend that we missed out on. We didn't have any representation there. We've got fly-in coming in. I would like to have whoever working for us by the time we do that. We have some things that are pending still that have not been cut by the feds. That's money we desperately need. And I think now more than ever, we need grant assistance and lobbying assistance with this stuff. She has a new proposal. I would ask tomorrow we do an executive session and then vote on it tomorrow when Kristen's here. After we negotiate with the price. Can't do that.
Do an executive session.
Okay,
We've already established.
well, then we have the
Maybe
bid for
we
the
could have
price.
an Executive session.
What's professional services, right?
It is professional services, I guess.
So how do we discuss it? Open meeting only?
Publicly.
I mean, we've all looked at it, you know.
I'm totally okay with it. And it's something we have an opt out. If it's not working, we know it's not working. I do believe we're gonna see results in the first couple of months. And from what Kristen says, that in the first 6 months, we'll see a lot.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's vitally important, especially with all the funding cuts that we're seeing, that we get them on board and let them know what we're thinking. where we need the funds and let them go to workforce. And
And there
it's
is,
gonna be a process.
So you're
It's not
gonna put
happen
that on
overnight, but-
the agenda?
we are competing against the world too. There's a lot of townships and even cities that are competing for the same money we're competing for. And some of them do have consulting firms and lobbyists that are doing it. Townships do, cities do.
Most of them have it, and it's time that we have it so we can compete.
I agree.
Commissioner, so do we want to have this added to the agenda for tomorrow?
That's what I'm asking, if we can add it to the agenda.
I just wanna let you know Attorney Danzo has not had a chance to review this.
But he can by tomorrow.
You got that big award too.
We will have to also have Sheriff Taylor Commissioner's Office a fund number.
Yes.
Where we're.
Take it out of the contingency, right?
That's what we talked about before that. Out of the Karen Island, 2 million.
That'd be-
But that's come in handy, hasn't it?
It's a Band-Aid.
And if for some reason he has a problem with it, then we can always.
But we'll have,
take it
Lisa,
off.
we'll have to transfer from
Right.
that, so we're gonna put that language in correctly.
But Kristen did say to me on the phone when I called her last week after the meeting. If we could go with her tomorrow, she'll start working for us tomorrow. It'll be immediate that
Yeah, the only
Gina
thing I would
approves
ask
her.
is that we have a meeting with her at some point in time, so she knows what we're looking at.
That was her plan, yeah, the minute that the contract is signed, and if there's any changes that the attorney would like to make, she's willing to make those, she was waiting to hear back. And you know, once that contract's signed, our team is ready to come, or so, yeah, whenever you would wanna sit down and meet with.
And I'm sure they have some ideas
myself
that they
Yeah.
can convey to us that, you know, where we could be looking at.
So Cheryl.
It's all on you, Mr. Danzo.
Get this in order.
Yeah.
All right.
And Attorney Danzo might need to take a glance.
Well, if we can have this for agenda, then we can vote tomorrow and then maybe next Tuesday, well, it won't be next Tuesday, but. The next chance we can get, we have to get.
Yep.
Kirsten in and say, hey, here's what we submitted already. One of you can meet with her in the meantime,
When are you going to Washington?
2 weeks, 20,
26.
yeah. And you guys will be there in full force,
That
right?
will not, Kristen and Josh will go. Yeah.
So we definitely need it in place, but
Right, there's still some earmarks that are pending out there that haven't been cut yet, and Senator Marino and even though John Husted. There's still some pending things that we need to get them on right away.
And Josh and his team are also ready, so yeah, the minute that's signed, Press Public Strategies and KO. We're here for your needs. So, should I just tell her then to come for 10:30 as well, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, commissioners, before we adjourn, I'm gonna bring something up. You may have seen it on the news. I had been contacted by Insight's attorneys. Banesh Copeland, Friedlander, and you probably know better than me. A law firm out of Columbus. Insight wants to reopen both Trumbull Memorial and Hillside, and they're escalating it. I had several questions. They said, that they're working with Senator Moreno. They're working with Dave Yost. They're working at a state level. The state's willing to assist them in any of the needs that they may need. They have applied for licensing. They said that they were under the licensing of Stewart, which killed them, sold them under the bus. They received no monies for Medicare or Medicaid. I asked them about their long-range plan. Are you just going to come in here and bail? And, oh no, this is long-term. We believe that we can run these hospitals efficiently and being able to, get the Medicaid, the Medicare that they weren't receiving. They did receive a lump sum payment of $200,000 last Friday. I questioned them about the Chapter 7, whether they're going to receive any further monies. They thought, no, we probably are at the bottom of the food chain. The banks and all the financial institutions will end up with their money first. I questioned them about the equipment. Do you have the resources available to be able to operate? Yes, we do. What about employment? You lost a lot of employees. They feel comfortable that they'd be able to reassemble, their employees. I asked them about the employees' pay. They said all employees were paid up to date as they work. Now, not necessarily vacation or comp time or those things. So then I asked if they would come from Columbus and have a roundtable meeting with the commissioners, the mayor, Warren, council, whoever wants to be here to question them, like Senator Moreno had mentioned. And she said, yes, we will be willing to travel from Columbus to have that meeting. So, I mean, I don't know, I'm cautiously optimistic, but you know, it's something. Now, I question about Senator Moreno's comment about the 3-yard line and being near a touchdown. She wasn't aware of any other. Again, Senator may have had something that we don't know about, but they're not aware of it. I also question about looming lawsuits, the possibility of them getting sued. She said they see no lawsuits on their radar. Just telling you what I'm hearing from the representative from the law firm. So she's supposed to call me, I believe, tomorrow and set up a time and date for a roundtable with their attorneys. I also question whether or not the CEO, the doc would come with them, and she's working on having the doctor with her, you know, to be present to explain to us and to show us, you know, their proposal. So she said as soon as their licensing comes in to operate, they want to open.
Well, that's what they
I mean-
told Commissioner Malloy and myself 2.5 months ago, that, you know, they needed Medicare and Medicaid
Right.
approved. And so are they saying that the licenses are
Yeah.
forthcoming?
Their licenses are forthcoming. They should be receiving them soon.
And they did tell us they were profitable. They were making $1 million a month if they were able to collect the money. But they weren't able to collect it.
And I talked to the mayor on Friday, Mayor Franklin, and I asked him if he had any contact with Insight. He said, no, not this
Yeah.
time. So, I mean,
I-
he definitely needs to be at the table.
Oh, that's why I suggested, that's why we would definitely have the mayor here.
But
yeah.
what did they ask? Are they asking something from the commissioners?
No. Basically, that what they want is our support for them to reopen, not money. Support and for the commissioners, for the mayor, for everyone involved here, the elected officials to approve and be on board with their reopening the hospitals.
And I would reach out to Senator Moreno's office too and make sure that he has a representative here, see what he was talking
That-
about.
Probably be a good
The
idea.
3rd-yard line, you know.
Yeah, we can get a hold of his.
And maybe he can bring us up to date on where they're at. And Senator Eustace's office too, because he's been involved also.
And Yost has been in contact with them as well, kind of, you know, giving them a thumbs up to operate. I mean, you know, like I say, we should be cautiously optimistic, but it's all, you know, at this point, it's pretty much.
This does fall in line with what we were told. They said they just needed a little time and they'll be back. They weren't giving up. They were gonna have to
No, and they did.
do what
tell
they
us
had to do.
They were taking money, you know. They said it's a profitable hospital. They just needed the license.
Oh, yeah, Stewart stole all the money. Stewart stole all their Medicare and Medicaid money. So, you know, sold them under the bus.
So did they indicate how soon the meeting would be?
I'll know tomorrow. She's supposed to call me tomorrow and then give me an idea about a timeline. I told her probably within the next 2 weeks. Somewhere in that area, because, you know, next week we're not gonna be available, but. So I'll let you know when I'm here, when I hear from her, and then I'll also be in contact with the mayor and, you know, get everybody on board.
Yeah, I'm just really curious whether they contacted him or not. Since Friday, because
I
that's
don't know.
Friday they did.
I don't know.
I've left a few messages to Dane, who's their government relations guy, and I haven't got a call back, but
There is
I did see he was in Italy on family vacation, so I don't know.
There is something else that I wanted to bring to the commissioner's attention. So I've been contacted by a producer, television producer out of, did I tell you this? Commissioner, I don't know if I told you this. There is a Dennis Quaid is the actor. He narrates a documentary, and they are looking at Trumbull County to do a documentary. They would have to fly out of Florida. He's out of Florida. He's calling me tomorrow at 3:15. I've already talked to the Port Authority. I know this might sound unusual, but Anthony Trevina had said that, no, this is what they do. There is a small charge. I believe it's, well, not considered small, $25,000 to $30,000. Anthony did verify that. That's on their rider or website to fly their production crew. It airs on Netflix, CNN, CNBC, and Fox. The 600,000 viewership, narrated by Dennis Quaid. And they come in and they do their reasoning for this. They saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about Kimberly Clark and how things are, you know, we're considered the steel mill, the Rust Belt mentality that we're shedding. And they're seeing an improvement in Trumbull County. I called Anthony. The Port Authority said that they would be on board along Lake to River to finance it if they do choose us, and they would have to choose us. There's still some more. I spent an hour with them on the phone. There's still some more details that they're looking at. If we get chosen, if the money's in order, they will set up a time to come in and start filming. The Port Authority sending them, I asked Anthony to send them, you know, what they have as far as, you know, press releases and video or, you know, whatever that I mean, I didn't have that. So the Port Authority's on board along with Lake to River, Valley Vision, all on board. And I'll let you know what I'm hearing from the producer. He got a hold of me through our commissioners, you know, through the commissioner's email, through an article in the Wall Street Journal, which he read. And it could, you know, for $25,000 to show where we're going and the direction that we're headed. And we will come out of this budget crunch. I mean, sooner or later, we're going to come out of it. But I think it's probably a positive thing, especially when the Port Authority's on board. So, you know, I'll let you know. I mentioned tourism.
Yeah.
You know, Beth, you know, you would be involved.
Beth Carmichael with Trumbull County Tourism. I just want you to know, I mean, if Port Authority and Lake to River are willing to pay for it, more power to them.
Yeah.
I will tell you that we receive at least 4 of these types of requests a year from different production companies who are looking for that funding to do these sorts of things.
Right.
If that's what everybody decides, that's fine. We always turn those down.
Yeah. Did you ever?
We had not
Dennis
this year,
Quaid?
last year.
Oh, Dennis Quaid contacted
And
you?
what's the reason you turned them down?
First, we weren't prepared to spend $25,000 to $30,000 out of our budget
Okay,
to do that. So if they choose that they wanna do,
so that's
that's
the
what they
main
wanna
reason, was the
do.
cost.
I think the cost and then just the exposure, I'm not 100% sure while it's on Netflix. Has anybody in the room seen a Dennis Quaid show
Well, he did-
highlighting another community or another one of
Yeah,
those?
I
And
actually-
sometimes these production companies also glorify a little bit too much these different communities.
And I don't.
Or they're hitting Las Vegas, when I'm looking at, oh, it's Vegas or St. Louis or some of these larger communities.
I don't disagree with you, but if you have one CEO that sees it, says, hey, Trumbull County's where. I like to-"
100%, and again, if the Port Authority and
Yeah,
Lake to River are
and
willing
if
to
it's,
fund it,
if it's
it's
Port
power.
Authority's money, I mean, we have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to
Beth,
gain.
did you see what they did? Oh, you looked at it?
Last year,
Okay,
when they reached out to us last year.
okay, because it's called Viewpoint with Dennis Quaid. Okay. Okay,
There's another production company, just so you know, that's coming from PBS that's also asking for that.
yeah, kind of similar to like.
We got, yes,
PBS,
we got that one
PBS.
last year as well.
But it never hurts to talk.
Well, all I'm doing is, you know, I'm answering to the connection and right when I heard about that cost, that blew me out. So I thought, let me call Anthony, and he sent me, he said, is this what it is? I said, yes. He looked into it. He said, no, that is a customary.
I'm not saying
Sure.
that it, right, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, I'm not saying that's not legit,
Right.
I'm not saying that the production company is not legit, I'm just saying this is their funding model
Yeah,
for this
How
type
do they
of
make money
production.
to 25 grand to come all the way from
Because-
Florida, a production company like that? I don't.
Because they're gonna make it in Netflix licensing,
sell
they're gonna
it,
make
yeah.
it in impressions that they're showing, and then they also make it. It's 10 communities usually about a year that they come into.
Well, we'll get KO to help us with the funding too.
There you go.
Huh? Can we get funding for that?
There's grants for everything.
Yeah.
Good answer.
I like that answer.
Good answer.
Oh,
Bill Fianzo, Prosecutor's Office. I just wanted to point out that it's another week where there's nothing to address our funding on the agenda. At this point, I suspect that may be intentional. I just want to let the board know, at this point, we're gonna have to consider where we look next. If we're not, if the intent is to hold off and perhaps not fully fund our office.
No, not to interrupt you, but it was put back on you. You said it was Dennis's call on the money.
the
When
prosecutor.
because the 300 you asked for was more than
Right,
what you
we-
wanted, and
We
you said
thought
Dennis
that
had
was
to
gonna
make.
be on the agenda in one form or
No,
another.
we were waiting, my opinion was we were waiting for you to talk to Dennis and him to tell us
Yeah.
how much, what the
I
exact
was
number
waiting
is.
for you to get back to me
Okay.
on that.
Well, in that case, what I would say is this, I have talked to Dennis about it. Like I said, we thought that this was just gonna be on for discussion this week, at least if nothing else. Look, the bottom line is, when we came here in November, we asked for the 4.469 million, I think. We were cut 120,000 somewhat arbitrarily, in my opinion, because everybody had to cut without really a deep review of what the performance of each department actually is. But that aside, we'd also asked for additional civil assistance. We had asked for an increase in the hours of an existing person. That wasn't reflected in that number. What I would say is this to the board: at the very least, we're asking for that 120,000 because we need to fund that position. We need it. We are getting to a point we are going to have serious problems with.
And we have no problem with that. We're
Yeah,
discussing
I
no
have no
problem.
problem with that.
Just we didn't want to give you the 300 if you only needed the 120.
What I would.
That's why I brought up at the last meeting. Let's look at this first before we just
Sure.
shove the pile of chips over
Well,
here.
what I would also say is that, I'll leave it up to the board. But the fact is, we did also ask for that additional funding for additional civil assistance in our office. If the board says this isn't the right time for it, so be it. I will tell you that we have already eaten the cost of one unexpected retirement this year in terms of paying out sick and vacation accumulation for that. I'm not sure that we won't have to reapproach you later for additional, even in light of, that was one unexpected retirement. We have another one coming up that I have to verify whether or not that one was planned, because we've got some people that we expected to continue on working through the year that don't appear to be at this point.
Yeah.
So there's a
That makes
lot of,
Perfect sense, Bill.
a lot of unknown things going on. And again, we have a very good feel for what our needs are, but, I think at the very least, where we need that 120 to fill that position. And I'll be honest with you, it's gonna be hard to fill that position because we're gonna have to try to attract somebody at now our competition is the public defender's office, frankly, a starting salary of 78,000. It's higher than we've ever started somebody before, but you have 2 job postings out there right now. What are you gonna do? So we're gonna have to compete with that, and we're gonna have to tell the person that frankly, we're not sure what 2026 is gonna bring. So come on, join our staff, but you're probably the first out the door if we get our budget cut again next year. So I just want to bring this to the board. I appreciate the cooperation. Maybe there's a miscommunication.
And I have a question, Bill, because I'm sorry, I
Go
didn't
ahead.
mean to interrupt. I can't
Yeah.
remember Sheriff Taylor, Commissioner's Office. I can't remember if they are paying our postage. The prosecutor's office is covering our postage completely. I've not given them 1 penny towards the commissioner's office postage. I wanted to give him extra to cover said postage to where they're not.
Yeah, and I appreciate
And I
that. That's
can't
a
remember-
pretty minor
Yeah.
thing, but
I
it's
realize,
just
but
what we had talked about on
you've
that.
been
and-
very gracious,
Oh, no
with
problem.
our
The
department.
thing with the postage, and it's really kind of more of a how to do it thing. At first, there was a thought that the commissioners would sort of reimburse by issuing payment, and the auditor's staff kind of pointed out, and I think it was harder on you guys too. It really doesn't make a ton of sense since we're both general fund departments. So the thought that Sherry and I had talked about was perhaps just increasing our line item
Their
for
budget.
postage in our budget. Kind of, you guys won't really need the line item necessarily then, so we'll just kind of transfer that money over. to the item
Yeah, because
And
we
just
have
let
to do
things
it
keep
anyway.
going. Right,
We'd have to
so
do it anyway.
it would kind of wash out the same way as issuing payment, but it's
Yeah.
actually easier,
Yeah,
you know?
no, it's much easier.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah,
Commissioner,
Well, I'm
I
kind of
would-
confused. When I talked to the prosecutor, Dennis Watkins, he told me that he needed 300,000.
Well, we do, and that's, you know, what I'm hearing from some people is that they don't think that, you know, that's in the cards right now. What I'm saying to the commissioners is that 300 would be incredibly helpful to keep our office operating the way it needs to operate. But what I guess I want to make clear is, I don't believe we can do without the 101. That's a hard line almost, in our opinion. The thing that extra money was for, that extra, so to speak, was the additional civil assistance that we needed. And if there was any remaining, the thought with that is to do some of that sort of succession planning, for lack of a better term. Our criminal division is overloaded right now with cases, with issues. Filling that one position would help. The goal was also to try to bring on, whether it be a brand new young attorney that we could maybe attract for a lower price, or some additional assistance in the form of, additional, I don't necessarily want to say paralegal, but something to help ease some of that workload that we've got. Because again, like we talked, the problem that we're facing, part of it now, is something that we didn't expect in November. We didn't expect 3 new positions in the public defender's office. We didn't expect to be competing with $78,000 entry-level attorney jobs. That all happened as of a couple months ago here. But it's now a reality for us. Now we are far outnumbered in what we are dealing with in terms of the criminal context. So that's where that 300,000 that was saved from them, the thought was that slotting in, again, from the system, slotting into what our office can do and needs to do, would be something that would be incredibly helpful in continued operation of our office. But what I am saying is that 120 is that's the hard line, is I don't think we can do without that this year.
But that's only a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid. And like I said, it doesn't guarantee that we
But
would.
at the same time, we just found out we were mandated by the courts for what share? Do we have to pay?
oh, we have to pay like public defenders and all that too. We're prosecutorial for Warren,
Sure.
Newton Falls.
We just got that bill that we have to pay, and that 300,000 could cover yours and that.
Somewhere along the line, that budget got cut, hacked. There's not enough money. I don't have enough money to cover what I have to. It's like, it's bad.
Well, and that's, again, I guess that's what we go back to, and it's something that we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
You know, there's certain things that the county has to fund. There's certain things that the county would like to fund.
right.
And frankly, I'm not sure where we're at in all of that. And I'm not sure. I'll leave it at that.
Well, at the very least, we have to put for tomorrow on the agenda, the vote to transfer that money. But I don't know, Commissioner, you said something about 200.
Well, originally, when I talked to the prosecutor, Dennis Watkins, he was requesting 300.
Right.
And my thought was, it was in the public defender's fund, so why not take it out of that legal system and shift it over to the prosecutor's office? That way they can perform the duties of their office, okay?
Right. I got
But if
that.
they need the 120 and we have this mandate, we have to pay for the warrant courts now. That's money we need to come from somewhere too. How much is that?
It won't be that much. It's
How
not gonna
much
be
will
that. We're looking at, I'm under like 14,000 on the one line item, another $4,000 on help, because we do cover these Warren municipal court judges, we cover some of their.
Well, we have
employees' costs.
14,000 that's coming in from Job and Family Services. We just found that out today.
Would it be okay to give them at least 150?
Well-
My suggestion was to.
He told me that he needed 300 is what he told me now.
Right.
I don't know.
I believe he was incorrect on that, though. When you look at what was requested, he's telling you he wants more than what was finally their bottom line and what was requested. And if we give him more than what he requested, how do we look the auditor in the eye and say, well, we cut you, we gave them more than what they wanted? How do we look at the parks and everybody else, we gotta fund still.
Well, it's just different funds.
200,
Yeah, because it was public defender. I mean, it makes sense to go back to,
And let him compete with the public defender's office. That's the bottom line, right, Bill?
I mean, I think let's put it this way, if you put two on the agenda, we certainly are not gonna turn it down. I think that's a,
I mean, Commissioner, you all right with that?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I just,
Commissioner? Let me-
Yes, I mean,
I just wanted to put a number out the air.
Yeah,
and again,
And then we'll look at it, we know
I'll
what
talk
you're
to-
up against.
I'll talk to the prosecutor.
store it up and see what he
I'll
says.
talk to the prosecutor again, but I can tell you just personally
You're
from
coming
what
back,
I've been
you know.
through the budget here, that, my take is we'd appreciate 200,000 additional. We'd appreciate that. I think that helps us at least try to get the ball rolling to get the help that we need immediately.
And then we gotta look at it
Yeah,
down the road, moving
Yeah,
forward.
we got a budget hearing at 1 today. We may have, what I believe, $1 million more than what we anticipated sitting there. So this might be a moot point in an hour.
Lisa, we could get that on the agenda
Yeah.
tomorrow? Okay. Gary?
I know Mike's been waiting to.
Mike?
You wanna go, Mike?
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Just little update.
Just name and.
Mike Salvage, I'm a transit administrator. I work with a group called Neo Ride. Neo Ride helps put transit groups together to do certain things. Okay. So what's gonna be happening with me is I started last week with the telephone, answering the telephone.
Right.
I have a new tree. My phone I just started. So if you press one between 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock, you will go to Mary Beth. This is if I'm not answering the phones, okay? You press 2, you'll go from 8 o'clock to, from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, go to WRTA. So from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, if I'm on the phone, like I'm in this meeting right now, and somebody wants a transportation question answered, they can press 4, it'll go to WRTA. They'll take care of whatever the process. And for example, if they need an application, like I received one yesterday, they'll send me an email saying this person needs an application, send it out. I just wanted to let you know. So right now, it's at the beginning process with this. I'm actually having people who will be calling. Carl Thomas is one of them, to see how this is gonna work and to see what bugs that they see and to fix the tree.
What's WRTA do? I mean, what are they doing? Are they
It's all-
we're not with
Now,
TA.
this is completely separate. What this is, WRTA has taken on this role. So number one is WRTA. When the call goes to WRTA. Number one is WRTA. Number two is Start Transit. Number 3 is CART. Number 4 is Trumbull County Transit. So they're answering calls for counties.
Then they're referring people to our senior levy ride program.
So what it is, so for example, if a client needs an application and it's gonna go by email, they'll send the application out by email.
And are they collecting that person's data and information for themselves too?
That goes right to me.
And they don't keep a copy for themselves?
Nothing,
No database with WRTA for that? They're just doing out of the kindness of their heart.
no, they're being paid.
By,
There's a grant that Neil Wright has put together and it doesn't cost us anything, but everything's paid for the next 3 years through this one.
Is that part of that grant that we gave $1,000 for you to join?
Well, it's not a grant, but yes, that's,
Yeah, it
right,
wasn't a
that's a
grant.
membership.
Yeah, remember,
Yes.
remember when we did that a couple months ago?
You did it, Jay, correct, that's what this is for. So as of right now, that's what they'll be doing. When I'm not there, they can answer my calls. And I said, so like I said, yesterday, I got 2 calls.
so you don't have to answer any calls at all.
No, I didn't say that. I will answer all my calls. But when I'm at a meeting or something like right now, if somebody's calling me and they hit 4, they'll go to WRTA, answer the call.
Are you aware that call's been made to you, that you can follow up then with that call?
I can look on my phone to see, because that's what I was doing yesterday. When I went out to take a walk, and I looked and there were 4 calls that were missed. And I know one of, and two of them happen to be WRTA and the other
What do
one.
you mean, to take a water point?
At lunchtime I take.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, I can look, what I do is when I come back, I always check my phone just to check missed calls. And see. But like I said, yesterday I got a phone call, because they had a question for somebody, they weren't trying to answer it.
Well, I'm
And the
sure
other
Carl
calls-
Clemens will keep you straight on that.
Right, I know, that's what I'm saying, that's why I called Carl, in fact, he was just calling me.
Yeah.
And he is gonna do the tree to see what's good, bad, and in between, and he's gonna have other members do the same thing, so that way we can clean the tree up.
Okay, Mike,
All right.
thank you. Eric?
All right, commissioners, as you are aware, the EPA, they fund our sewer
You always
projects.
say your name, but you didn't
Oh,
do it.
Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer, sorry.
You didn't say that.
It's okay, I did it today.
All right, I'm so bad. But anyway, the EPA, they have the funding source for sewer projects, funding source for water projects, and they're offset by 6 months apart. And the nominations for the water projects were due in March. Then they just released the projects yesterday, or June 9th, it is today. We got $4 million of principal forgiveness for the Blueprint Phase 2 project.
Good.
Yeah, so that's 4 rounds in a row now. $4 million forgiveness awards. Started with Meadowbrook, then it went State Road Regionalization, Pendleton, which we fought tooth and nail to get that one, and now 4 million for this. So that's 16 million in 2 years that we've of grant fund water and sewer.
Great, that's great,
Right.
yeah, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, Blueprint, that's that Southington project.
Blueprint Phase 2. I have a map of it here.
Yeah. I mean, but it's the Southington, Champion Southington area project.
Well, it's the area in red is what is going to be built with this one. That orange one, that's that one that's being built right now out there on State Road. The items in red are the project that's called Blueprint Phase 2. When Blueprint was originally conceived, we wanted to build all this. But due to, funding, we had to scale the project back. Now it's time to come back and fill in these areas on red in that original grid that we had outlined. We needed that orange line, that State Road Regionalization first to supply it with better water. So we had to build this first. And now we're going up to clean up the last piece of that whole western grid out there.
So what's the total cost on the proposal?
For this upcoming one, we put in a cost estimate of about 8.5 million, and so we got 4 million off. And we already spent 350,000 of ARP for the engineering for the design.
And where's the other money coming from?
No, that'll be 0% loan. That we can recover in the form of capital charges.
How many homes will be served?
I don't have that with me, but I think there's about, I want to say 350 altogether in this section.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. I do need some signatures.
Eric, do you have anything pressing for next week if I'm not available? Zach, that'd be,
Yeah, I already planned it next week. There's no meeting, so, yeah.
so you'll be covered then?
Yeah,
just so you know.
I should be
Okay.
good, yeah.
Chrissy? You got
Stuff on the
anything?
counter.
Okay. Well, commissioners, we have a 1 o'clock budget meeting. It's 12:37. If nobody else Nothing else? Need a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard.
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes. I like that shirt, Rick.